how long until you're up to speed? How long until you're really trained? Put you anywhere in the nation and you could do your job. 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. And he's like, no, it's more like 2 years.
Yeah, come on.
You can't flail forever. You got to constantly be trying to learn, trying to...
It's effort. Yeah. Welcome back to First Year in Medical Device Sales. I am your host, Jacob McLaughlin, and today we have a very special guest, a very good friend, someone that I was able to meet in the industry. We were actually for the same company when I was at Medtronic. He was just in a different division. But today I'm bringing you all a very special guest of someone who has over 20 years of experience in med device sales, but even more importantly, has been married for over 30 years, has 2 kids, an amazing husband and a father, and honestly, just a great friend and mentor, and someone that I've learned a lot from, especially the last 3-4 years. And I'm just so thankful that our paths have crossed. And I know this conversation for you guys is not only going to be beneficial for helping you guys break into medical device sales or perform medical device sales, but also just how to navigate life, how to navigate a career, family. And so I'm really excited to bring my good friend, Jim Hunt, onto the podcast. So Jim, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Thank you very much.
It is absolutely amazing to have you on. Yeah. We were just talking that it was funny, the conversations we've had, and then we were like, I haven't had you on the podcast. We should probably do that.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we're finally making it happen. But can you just do a little recap of just who you are, maybe some of your background, so people that are listening know who you are?
Sure. Yeah. So Jim Hunt, been in Arizona since 2002, got hired into med device out of a company called Pitney Bowes. So I'm a rare breed. I've only worked for 2 companies technically. So I was with them for about 9 years in outside sales. It's kind of more of a business to business, selling office equipment, leases, things like that, mail handling and shipping stuff as well. And got recruited to move into a territory that was expanding for what was then mostly known as U.S. Surgical. Okay. That was the company name, although it was under the umbrella of Tyco Healthcare.
Okay.
So that was 2005, got through the training and kicked off into my territory at that point, and then getting hired by U.S. Surgical, Tyco Healthcare. Tyco Healthcare split up, and they spun off a company called Covidien. Covidien lasted 5 years, and on a Saturday, all this chatter started happening about some kind of a big merger or big sell or company getting bought, and it was announced that Monday that Medtronic was buying Covidien for $49 billion or something.
I was going to say one of the biggest.
It was the biggest transaction at that point. I don't know if it's been eclipsed, but yeah.
And it was one that just shocked the medical device world, because the reason I just say that to everyone, because I remember when I was at Innovis and we talked about it when we were looking at all these med device companies, It shocked the world because it was like, at the time, Medtronic was actually like smaller, and they were like, how do we go get the whale? That's going to help us in so many ways. And then it made this acquisition that literally just changed the landscape.
Completely. Yes. So yes, Medtronic went from being a 3rd or 4th in the size to number 1 overnight, brought on a $10 billion company. Yeah. Back in the day when Tyco owned us, the TYCO stood for Tomorrow Your Company's Ours. We sort of joked about it because they were buying, that was their strategy. Yep. Buy and incorporate them into whatever we were doing or some other division. But now we're the ones that got purchased and had to be indoctrinated or have the culture of Medtronic, getting into that and everything. And it's been pretty smooth. It's been Medtronic's a great company, very, very solid.
Yep.
So mission driven. You almost think at some point it's just a thing they do, but it really is the culture.
It is. It's 100% you. And I can speak to that too, just because you've been there. But like, I tell people all the time, like, there is no surprise. And we talk about stigmas in medical device sales of certain companies, right? Like, like I can just sit here and tell you, like, Medtronic has always been full of nice people, really genuine human beings. Now, again, let me just make this clear. It's med device sales. You're going to have egos. You're going to have certain human beings. Sure. That's just med device sales. But when you go into an actual whole of a company, like the actual genuine people, there's a reason why you have people like yourself who've been at Medtronic 10, 15, 20 plus years. Because they're known as a company that like really actually goes after their employees. And it's even in their mission of focusing on their employees, focusing on the patient, focusing on you guys to continue to grow that company. And so again, I saw that and I felt that when I was at Medtronic. Now, the one thing I'll sit here and tell you is just so everyone that's listening to do your research, because there's also other companies that are very known in med device sales. They don't give a flying F about you, that they are there for profit. You are just a tool. And you better do it. Otherwise, they'll find 5 other people who can do your job. And the reason I just say that is because I actually just had a good friend with one of my guys. He was one of the head at one of these companies, and his non-compete just expired. And now he's being very public about it on LinkedIn about how he was treated and what they look for and like what their mission statement is. And it's literally, you're just a number. And so many people are scared to say it. But like, that's one thing to be known. But I do love that what you're saying about Medtronic is they always made sure to make sure you're appreciated, that you know that you matter. And like one of the biggest things I think that was for me when I first started with Medtronic, and just so you guys know, I was with the GYN, which was actually Covidien, which they had bought from Smith & Nephew, which got confusing because we still had Smith & Nephew trays when we were owned by Covidien and all the above. But the reason I'm saying that is they always made sure that it's like, hey, we're going to focus on you as a person, but we're not going to just fire you. We didn't hire you just to fire you. Right. And I think that's one thing that I would love everybody to hear is getting around companies like that. Even with Innovis, that was something I hold myself to a very high standard of like, I'm going to get fired if I don't perform. But these companies are like, we're giving you a year or 2 years. That's why I tell people they're investing in you. Because even with my manager at Medtronic, it was like, go for the first year and then we'll see. And just because you don't hit your number doesn't mean you're let go right away. We might put you on a support plan and stuff like that. So I just love that you said that, because I do want people to know the companies really do matter in med device sales. And you've been at one, but there's a reason you've stayed at one.
Well, I've kind of been at 3.
Well, you've been at 3. It's all like getting married by another one.
Yeah. So 2 points to add on to what you said. So when I got hired, it was a very old school training. US Surgical was known for their sales training. They were the company that invented training sales reps to sell in the OR. They had a very specific process, and that's one of their models was to hire people from a business background, a selling background, but then they would teach them the clinical side of selling. Super grueling. It was a month straight in Connecticut, and we added them up. There must have been 30 or 40 tests. Whether it was an interview, you're doing a pitch, or you're in a lab explaining how to use products, and everything was evaluated. And at the time, it was the 3-strike rule. Third strike, you actually got fired.
You just got fired. Yeah, you didn't have a job.
There was no second chance. There was no. And anyways, they've done away with that. But
at that company. So, as you're talking, all that hits is Intuitive, because Intuitive is known for that. But it's
interesting.
Yeah, so that's what they do. We get a lot of people hired at Intuitive, and that is still a thing. They go to training. It is hardcore test. It's 90 or 95%.
90.
You got and then if you do not pass it at the end of it, they like I just talked to one of our people that we got hired there. Hit in that group, one person has already been let go.
I can't tell you how scared out of my mind I was to do that, because I joke around and say, "Hey man, the only test I've ever gotten straight A's on is my blood test." I'm serious. And I sailed through without any strikes. But my point is the VP of sales came in to talk to us kind of towards the end, and there were some fun activities we did towards the end. And he came in and said, now this is after we've had all this bravado of all these, because my class was all guys. And, who's the best and all that kind of thing. And he asked, all right, what do you think? How long until you're up to speed? How long until you're really trained and fully ready to do your job? Like, we could just
put you out,
put you anywhere in the nation, and you could do your job. Some people are like, I'm going to 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and he's like, no, it's more like 2 years.
Come on.
So that just always resonated with me. It's someone who obviously we've all gone through this gauntlet of training. And there's a little bit of a cushion there, but you still have to own your own training.
Yep.
They're not going to just let you flail. You can't flail forever. You got to constantly be trying to learn, trying to.
It's effort.
Effort.
You got to show it. And we talk to people about this. And this is why when we're talking to human beings, they don't understand it. And just so you know, there's still reps that I talk to that have been in the industry for 12, 24 months. They don't even understand it. Sure. Right. But like we talk about, a med device company is going to invest anywhere from $250,000 to $500,000 inside of you.
Oh, for sure.
Because and people will be like, that's not true. But I just always make life easy. When I came in at Medtronic my first year, 135 at plan, 6-month guarantee, right? So you're getting guaranteed that money of over 6 figures. You're going to get 401k, 6% match, all the insurance. Yep. You're then going to get a car. They pay for my gas. Then they fly me out to training. And at that time it was COVID. So they just did training there, but they sent us all the stuff, but you're going to get sent out there. Then you're out there for 2 to 4 weeks, not making any money. They're spending money on you. You're going to come back. And then, like you said, they know for the first 3 to 6 months, even usually a year, but the first at least 3 to 6 months, you ain't making $1. You might have some money come in that was already generating just because the territory, but you ain't actually generating that because you still don't know what to do. And so that's where people miss that. These med device companies are investing in you, but exactly what you said, and I think that's the biggest thing is it's what are you doing on the back end of actually getting it? Because that's what companies, managers, CEOs that I talk to and we interview, that's what they're looking for. It's just effort. Who's trying, who continues to show up, because there's certain things you can teach, but there's certain things you can't teach.
Yes.
And that's what they're really looking for is like, who's going to continue to just show it's okay to fail. We understand that you're not going to be perfect. But we do, and I say this, and I actually just saw somebody say this, but and they have it in their website, but it's, we don't expect perfection because perfection is impossible. You will never hit perfection, but we do expect excellence. We do expect you to try, give effort, get better every single day. And I think that's one thing I want everybody to hear because like that came from a VP. That came from some people that are wanting you guys to get better, understand it. The second part I want to just touch base on is you said about 2 years he talked about it. That's a known thing if you guys are in med device sales or in any sales. Normally they say most reps, and I can live this and I'll own it, is, I jumped after 22 months. But the reason I jumped is because I was making more money off my base than I could even at plan. Like there's a lot of good stuff for me. Most reps will jump after 18 months. And what they don't understand is normally you're going to around month 24 and above is when you're actually going to see all the work from the last 2 years start going in your territory. And that's what people miss is they'll do it for 16 months and they're frustrated. They're like, screw it. And what they don't know, if they actually just stayed another 6 months, 8 months, everything was about to turn because they've done studies and they actually look at like an average sales rep, a sales territory. And usually to have it start turning, it's about 2 years. So I just love that you said that because I want people to really understand that. And then the last thing I want just for all my girls out there, Jim might have only been hired with men, but like Medtronic has plenty of women med device companies. It was just
the class. Yeah, all guys.
It was the class. I just say that because like, again, that's the number one thing I get from girls. I hear it's just a boys club. And it's like, I was in GYN and over 50% of the reps and managers were female. So just to make you guys feel better on that.
Well, yeah, on that note, Medtronic has a big initiative focused on hiring women and promoting women. I'm a part of that. And I think it's great. When I got hired, my whole territory was more than 2 hours from my house.
Wow.
So I lived in Phoenix. I had 2 accounts that were very, very small in Phoenix, literally 2 hospitals. And everything else was Northern Arizona.
Yeah.
So I went all the way over to Lake Havasu, over to Globe and Show Low and Flagstaff and Kingman.
And if you guys don't know this, like there's not a lot going on out there.
No, that from one side of the state to the other is about 7-hour drive. I did it once or twice. So I realized about 18 months into the job, like that's when they first started to remember my name. I mean, how humbling is that, right?
Yeah, you've been there for over a year. You show up and they're like,
the optimist. I'm like, hey, I'm making progress. So it was, you have to build that trust. You have to show up. You got to put in the time. Look, there are some people that get that false sense of accomplishment where something out of their control happens and they get a lot of success. Meaning sales or high achievement on quota, but to really drive change and organically grow, that really does take some time.
It takes, it's relationships, it's fostering. The reason I love that you said that is the amount of human beings that I come in and I get to talk to and they're like, I got hired at J&J or Medtronic or Intuitive, wherever. And they're like, and I did 130% to plan. And it's like, that was already going to do 120% without
Probably.
you.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's my favorite is there's so many human beings because again, we're in sales. Med Device is a very ego driven. Just go check the comments if you don't think that, because you'll see all the people tell us why we suck and all the stuff. And they don't even make 150K and they've been in for 10 years. But the reason I tell you that is we live in this world and you get so many human beings that will be like, I crushed it. It's all that. And it's like my first year. And it's like, but you took over a territory that was already performing.
Yeah.
Right. And that's always the thing that I always want people to check. That's why I bring that up of like, I took 2 territories. One was the lowest performing, had been the lowest performing for several years. And then I took a territory that had $0 in revenue. That takes time. It takes fostering relationships. I always tell people, like, what are you doing today that's going to help your company or your territory in 3, 6, 9, 12 months? Because it's no different than what I said in my interview to get hired. It's no different than what I say to anybody I'm seeing or a friend that I meet. Hey, I can tell you whatever you want to hear. I'm in sales, right? I in my final interview with Innovis, I told them, we're all salespeople. I can tell you I'm going to come in, I'm going to crush this, I'm going to make you millions of dollars. But at the end of the day, talk is cheap. Hopefully my actions just sit here and will show you. Right. Hopefully I've shown you up to this point. The reason I'm telling you guys that's what I did with all my territories. When I first took over, I would go meet with all the, like I was in GYN or if I had general surgery or wherever, I would go meet with the directors or the heads. And then I would just say, hey, I'm the new rep. What did the last rep do well? What did the last rep not do well? And I'm not going to make any promises. All I'm going to do is over the next year, several years, I'm going to just show you.
Right.
And that's what I think people miss, but most people don't want to play that long term because it's like, well, that takes work, that takes a relationship, but that's what people miss is that's what this is.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is people can see through it when you're just trying to get something out of them. You're
it's
not
the
really
worst.
trying to help them.
It's that, well, and what I want people to hear is it's that used car salesman. Because you've seen it, I've seen it, but like, I want you to even speak about it. It's like, we've all been there where the rep comes in, he needs to hit quota. He's got a quarterly, he comes in, he just is trying to upsell everything in the room. Because we will be in surgeries where other reps will come in because they're a different product or whatever in the surgery. They do their certain things and then they walk out.
Yep.
The only thing that happens in my scenarios when I would watch it, the nurses, the techs, and the surgeons just talking about how pushy, how nasty, how like that rep just was here to sell something, didn't care about anything. It can be really seen compared to like, I just tell people there's times, even when I had like quotas on the line and stuff like that, I would make sure it was the right time for them. Like, yes, we got to move, you have tactics to do stuff, but like if a doctor has a horrible case, I'm not bringing anything up about trying to sell them.
Definitely got to read the room.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and so I just love that you said that because it's that fostering that relationship, making sure people feel good. And that's what I just tell people is like, you can't fake being genuine.
Right.
You can't fake actually just caring about someone. Like I tell people, we made a podcast about just making notes of if I'm in the OR, I'm like, hey, an Arrowhead or Honor Health Shea or wherever, the scrub tech, this is their name. They had this many kids, all the stuff. So when I see that's in my room, I'm going to go look up and I'm just going to ask about it. I'm going to be genuine. Like, I think that's what people miss. And like people will say sales is so hard, especially med device sales is so hard. And again, you're the 20-year vet, so I want you to speak to it. But from my experience and working with a lot of different people and talking to a lot of people is as long as you care, as long as you know your products really well, you can be a resource and you know your competitors' products really well. And then you actually just do what's best for the team or the patient or the surgeon and them keep your word. Things are probably going to work out pretty well for you over time.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the things that dawned on me why I was unhappy in my previous job was it was leases. So you're just constantly, what's expiring? What can I flip? Doing a deal. It's like a car, right? You're trying to take one model to the next model on paper and make the payment work. And I hated it. It was disingenuous.
Yeah.
I would go in and be friendly and sometimes gregarious or the glad handing and everything. And I knew I did that for 2 weeks and then I wouldn't see them for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I hate myself right now. It's just like, it's so
icky.
Gross.
Yeah.
And I realized that I wanted something with long-term relationships. And, one of the things that I wanted to share with your audience was, well, I got the recruiting call about this opportunity and was connected with the hiring manager. And at the time, I didn't know anything about healthcare. I had never been in an OR. avoided hospitals.
Yeah.
That's what you're supposed to do, right?
Yep.
And, but I was so excited about the opportunity because obviously it was a career. It was called a lifestyle, but it was a way of life. It was definitely something I could see myself doing for a career.
Yeah.
I needed to somehow separate myself from anybody else he was looking at to hire, and wanted the job really bad.
Yeah.
And I did everything I could to educate myself on procedures, hospitals, on the contract they had just won. But I think one of the things that ultimately tipped the scale for me was my sister-in-law was a nurse. So I interviewed her about what a good rep was. Who are the good ones? Who are the bad ones? What do they do? What do the good ones do? What should I avoid? And then I asked another question, which was, is there anyone you could introduce me to learn more about, perhaps a surgeon or maybe your boss and she actually was going to try and get me into the OR back in the day.
I love it.
And got her hand slapped pretty bad, unfortunately. You can't just bring anybody into the OR.
What? You just can't walk into an OR while someone's operating?
Not even 20 years ago, you couldn't really do that. But, well, actually, you probably could have, but she told somebody that was the problem. But, so anyways, one of the surgeons was kind enough in between his cases, came out, talked to me, and I interviewed him about, what's a good rep?
Yeah.
What do you like? Product wise, personality wise, all these different things. And I still have his cell phone number today.
I love it.
And if I needed something from him, we're on we're not like best friends, but
you have his number.
We have a history, and I helped him become a KOL with our hernia division at one point in time.
Love it.
And then I did a whole write-up. Every interaction I had with somebody where I learned something, or I saw myself going above and beyond to separate myself from anybody else in this whole hiring process. I wrote up a report essentially.
Yep.
Did the same thing after, because back then we also did a ride day with a rep.
Yep. Do a ride along
as part of the hiring process.
And some companies still do that.
Yeah, it's a little tougher today with all the credentials,
regulations and stuff. A lot of times what we see is they might get them into the OR, but a lot of times they're just going to go to accounts with them, sit in that area, go to lunch, stuff like that.
Yes, or maybe hang out in a lounge. Or
yep, like exactly.
But again, did a write up. Here's all the things I learned. Here's I tried not to project like, well, here's what I would do, because I didn't know.
God,
but at least showed that interest and took the time to recap everything. And he later told me, he's like, I wasn't interviewing anybody else. You were the top one the whole time. But that I didn't want to leave any stone unturned.
Come on, man. We say, so that's why I say in our course all the time, leave no stone unturned. And one thing that I want everybody to hear is like, this is what I love, and that's why we get along. But like, nobody had to tell you that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that was the thing that I absolutely love. Like, it's always so interesting to me when people are like, I'll tell them, maybe you should follow up with that person. They're like, you're a genius. And I'm like, I'm just telling you what I would do. But the reason I'm saying that is like, nobody told you to go reach out to the nurse. Nobody told you to reach out to like, go try to get a surgeon. Like, what people don't understand, when I was interviewing for Medtronic, I literally called a women's health clinic that had the GYNs that I was interviewing for. I offered to buy them all lunch. It was going to cost me $500+. And just so I could go and interview, exact same thing. They ended up declining me, but I put that and I showed the text to my manager and all the stuff, just showing that I wanted to learn. How could I be the most prepped rep? And like, that's what I always tell people is like, what we see a lot of times, and I just want to give some benefits to somebody out there right now, is what I watch everybody do is they try to be like, oh, I'm going up against somebody with this much years experience or this. Who cares about your competition? Your only competition is you. Because if you do like what you did, you weren't worried about everyone else. You're like, I'm leaving no stone unturned so I get this job. Now in the back of your mind, you're like, you're someone more qualified. So that's why it's pushing you. But at the end of the day, you aren't calling trying to figure out other people doing all the stuff, because what I watch other people do is they try to do just enough, just a little bit more if that person has this to get it. And it's like, no, you need to show that you're willing to do whatever it takes in an ethical manner to actually go after this job. And that's one thing I just want to just push out for anybody listening is seeing that you did this 20 years ago. You were just hungry. You're like, how do I get this? How do I stand out? it goes such a far way. And even though, yes, it's more competitive now, yes, there's a lot more regulations. There is stuff like that for people out there, and that's why we do what we do. But the reason I'm saying that is I love that you said, like, nobody had to hold your hand. Nobody had to say, do this, because that was just you being a salesperson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. And it was not a short process.
No.
At all. It was quite long, actually. From when I got called by the recruiter to when I got hired was 7 months.
Wow.
And that's one of those things too. I think you can help your audience know that, look, those delays had absolutely nothing to do with me.
Yep.
They got busy, quarter end,
hiring freezes.
Yep. Or at the time they were just swamped.
Yep.
They needed, the manager actually had to go work in the OR.
He had to go be a manager. If a rep's not there or it's overdue and he's going in, a good manager will do that.
Exactly.
But yeah, just so you know, I say this to all of our people that we work with, and especially our program, because there's so much entitlement that comes out. And especially people have never done it. I sent a message. They told me they would get back to me yesterday and they haven't. And what the heck do I do? And it's I always make everybody really understand, you are the absolute least important human being to these people. And not in a mean way, not degrading to you.
Yeah.
But for example, I always make it clear that the hiring manager, first off, let's bring work in, hiring freezes, back orders, reps not performing, stuff going on in the territory. He's getting fires every single day, plus what's corporate telling him or her, all the stuff that's coming to them. Mm-hmm. And then their wife's yelling at them that they didn't pick up the dog poop again for the third time. The kids screaming. There's just so much stuff going on in their life that it's why you have to follow up, why you have to do stuff. It's we all get busy in our own life, but what I watch so many people do, whether you're trying to get in the industry or you're already in the industry and you're a rep trying to talk to a doctor or stuff, it's well, I reached out to him once. I reached out to him twice. And it's there's this entitlement that comes out compared to who cares? They don't care about you, not in a mean way. And you just have to how do you be the one they're thinking about? How do you come top of mind? And so I want to put that, but also just for everyone listening, we still go through that. If you guys haven't seen our course, our average person gets in about 8.5 weeks. What we're able to do is we're able to manage those because companies are always going on hiring freezes. They're always going to have people not talk to you. I always bring it back to dating because it seems to hit really well with dating. But it's if someone's not talking to you for 3 weeks, would you say they're probably the top choice in your life, or you're the top choice in their life, right? We help them, but that's why we go through a process of having multiple offers, going through multiple companies, doing all the stuff. So it's not one, but I just want to put that out there for people because you're 100% right. The number one thing I hear from people who call me and they're well, I thought about your program, or I've thought about this, but Medtronic, J&J, Stryker, whoever you want, told me they'll reach out in 2 months. And I'm and you're never going to hear from them ever again, because 2 months from now, they're going to be in a hiring freeze because it's going to be December or it's January. Now they don't even start hiring till February or March. And then they're not even going to, that's what people miss. Just going back to a story so you all can hear it. I got the call from Medtronic 3 weeks before the job was ever posted saying I was the person. Literally, my manager went through, this is what training looks like. This is what you're going to do. This is your pay, on a call for an hour. I remember walking in the gym, jacked, going crazy. I got the job, 6 figures, changed my life, all of it. It didn't get posted for 4 weeks. They told me I was going to start training in 3 weeks. It didn't even get posted for 4 weeks. And then I did the first interview and they said, hey, we had so many great candidates. You have to go through the whole 6 interview process that took another 6 weeks. So just to show you, just like in sales, I have hospitals hospitals always told us the PO's coming, or Jim, I sent you the PO.
Yeah.
It never even got issued.
Right.
Until it's in your inbox and you've put it, it's nothing.
Yeah. It's such a great point too. Cause everything you just said is real. That all happens. I've been on both sides now. I've helped hire people, interviewed people, and I've also been someone that's gone for roles and other jobs and things like that as well. So it's so hard though. It's so hard when you're the candidate and you have your heart and soul invested in this.
It's your life.
Yeah.
It's your livelihood.
Yes. And it's hard.
Yeah.
That's probably
it is
the simplest and easiest way to put it, and
that's one reason we help with them. Mm-hmm. I just try to bring it back to life, bring it back to earth. There's certain things. This is also why people who come in our program, they're I have enough money. I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to go all in. What are you thinking? I'm please, for the love of God, don't do that. And they're why not? And I'm and it depends on what the demand is. But for example, what I watch so many people do is they'll be in our program and it's been 2 weeks and they feel like it's been 3 months. because it's all they focus about. It's all they're thinking about. It's all they're doing. And then you almost get that reality that's just, it's not reality anymore. And then like I tell people, I always laugh. I'll have somebody freaking out that we'll get new and it's been like, it's been 15 days. And I'm like, yeah, and we tell you it takes on average about 2 months. So I think we're doing okay, right? And so, but it is hard, like you said. And that's one thing is just, I want you guys to understand that. That's okay.
Well, that's a big part of having that long-term vision in a territory where you have to realize that, look, I'm not really going to be good for about 2 years. I'm just going to keep working towards good.
Get better,
is, you know, that self-awareness has to come as well. And I think that's one of those things that, now I haven't interviewed a whole lot of new to med device folks in a while, but thinking back on some of those interviews I've done, those are the people that are separated from the run of the mill, say the right thing. Here's what I got to do to get the job. Kind of that minimum effort you're talking about. Whereas someone who they understand themselves maybe a little more than somebody else, and they are able to articulate their story. I mean, we just hired someone that was a collegiate athlete, and that was her brand. You know, during the interviews was, here's why I'm going to be a great rep. And it completely communicated and worked fantastic.
And she backed it up.
Now I'm helping her through training, and you can see she, you know, the drive and the attention to having a plan and detail and things like that. It's, you know, that's why she got hired. I
love it. I just got to touch on this. We actually, as with the recording of this, we just literally got someone hired yesterday. They got the offer letter today at Medtronic, over $125,000.
Oh, fantastic.
No experience before. And so the reason I'm just saying that is, again, showing that it's able to be done in 6 figures and breaking in. But the reason I'm saying that and why I smile is it's the conversation we have with our people. I can't teach you drive. I can't teach you following through on your word. I can't teach you being ethical. I can't teach you, like, it's all the things. And what I want people to hear from that right now, she didn't have the sales experience. She didn't have all this stuff. Who cares about a resume? Like, this is why when people tell me your resume matters, no, it does not. Because I talk to enough CEOs, and as somebody who hires people, let me just tell you, you want to know what everybody does on their resume? Lies. They all lie. They pump numbers. They do all the stuff. It's not true. So the reason I'm just saying that is that's the biggest thing I've learned hiring, and I've learned working with CEOs of med device companies. And I have open conversations. They're like, we're going to put them through tests. We're going to do certain things, and we just want to see how they react. I just remember even being in basketball. I remember being with my student assistant coach, and literally my coach was like, we're going to see how this player is, if they're really about themselves or if they're really about the team. Let's bench one of the starters who's started for the last 2 years, bench them. And we'll bring them in after 5 minutes in the first half, and then they'll play the rest of the game. But bench them and see how they react in the first 5 minutes. And if they're pouting, they're out. And then we're going to see how they come off the bench and do all the stuff. The reason I just tell you guys that's why they love athletes, right? There's mind stuff, but it goes back to, what are you going to do? How are you going to respond? And that's what the reason I want to touch on that is because, again, we just mentioned 2 people who don't have the experience, never been in med device sales, both got hired, but what they did, they knew how to tell their story. They knew how to come prepared. They did all the work that was prepared. And again, I'm telling you, this person didn't even take my course. I'm just saying this. This is someone Jim found. And the reason I'm saying this to you guys is, like, you can't teach certain things. And I don't know, like, when we tell people, like, when I'm like, hey, did you get up and do this? And they're like, no. I'm like, I can't help you then, because that's a you thing. Right. And so I just want people to hear that, because if you're sitting here saying it's been 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, if you're a rep inside the industry who's been in for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, but it's everyone else's fault, it's not happening, all stuff. I just want to say, do a real hard look in the mirror. Where are you falling short? Because that's the thing that's helped me grow in my career, but also just a lot in life. Every month, I look at myself in the mirror and I say, where are you falling short? And let me just make this really clear. It hurts and it sucks every time. I just saw a thing of growth. If you really want to grow, just understand it's going to be extremely painful.
Absolutely. Yes, I suck every day.
But that's why. But that's what makes you great.
Yeah. Well, and to go along with that, I think there's 2 points. One is, I personally think my superpower is curiosity. I'm constantly thinking. I probably spend more time thinking than talking to people. And it's not because I'm daydreaming. It's because I'm envisioning or visualizing what I want to do in my territory, who I want to talk to, What kind of program would I like to put together? How do I think I could win this deal?
Yeah.
What do I really understand? What questions would I want to ask the next time I see them? All these different things. And that curiosity, I think, has also allowed me to explore, my own brand within Medtronic.
Yeah.
Right. And that is a thing, when you're in the role, is you're still kind of in sales, even with your own company.
It's you. You are your own brand.
Right.
100%.
And that's one of those things where, some of the changes that have happened within my own career that have been, I don't want to say forced upon me, but they were given, voluntold to me. And, having to really explore them in a way that would benefit me.
Yeah.
And like, for example, at one point in my career, I was on a team of, say, 500 people.
Yep.
And then they moved me to a team of 100 people. And they took away some products that I really, really liked and gave me some products that I had zero experience with. And the opportunity at that point in time was, this is kind of a moment where I can reinvent myself.
Yeah.
Come on. I was known as a certain person on the team of 500. I can rise to the cream rises to the top, right? Or I can rebrand myself or shine brighter in a smaller pond, if you will. Or I don't know if that's the right analogy, but and that happened. That was one of those things that was, I think, really, really beneficial for me. And again, the curiosity in always inquiring, not only how could I be better, because that's easy, but how can I make everyone around me better? How can I share everything so we all win?
Yeah.
I think that is one of the things. If you're looking for a new job within medical device sales, if you do get the opportunity to meet with the other reps before you get hired, that would be one of the things I would be looking for is, who's got your back?
Come on.
Are you a person on an island?
Yep.
Or are you truly on a team of individuals who are all trying to score the basket on their own?
Yep.
But
they'll help
from
out.
time to time, they're going to give you the assist.
Come on.
Use your basketball analogy.
Yeah.
Right?
Come on. I love it.
Right. Because that's the thing that's carried me for 20 years is the people that I work with.
I love that.
Wanting to help them, but also when I need something, knowing, there's a person on the other end that'll listen, give advice. Sometimes they've literally come out and helped me in my own territory. And, that's being a good person.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because it's the culture, it's the team that you go to. Mm-hmm. And that's what we talk about. Like, again, this is where people hear money, 6 figures, we break people in, all this stuff. I'm like, but you would be more happy going to a place making $30,000 less. I know it's hard for you to think, but with somebody who supports you, cares about you, all the stuff, than if you go to a team that doesn't care about you. Because exactly what you said, what so many people do is they think it's all them. Right. Like I make this really clear, is like I always have to like check myself as well, because young ego, want to make a name, but it's at the end of the day, like me hitting quota and me doing all the stuff, it never was just me. I have teammates, like what you, going to your point, there were multiple times I was on back order and I had a teammate send me their trunk stock so I could get sales. Mm-hmm. There's multiple times I did the same thing for them, right? Mm-hmm. It's just you scratch their back, they're going to scratch yours, but it's like, who's really there? And that's what I always tell people. It's like, you are, to an extent, you're a lone wolf on your own island, because we all have our own territories. Right. We have to go hunt, we have to go perform. But also, what are you able to do to help the other people on the team and know that it might come back? It may never come back. But what you just said is, that's why I love that aspect of it. Mm-hmm. Is because that's why I love basketball. Is like, everyone's always like, it's always a team sport, but it is. But it's like, if you ain't playing good, you ain't on the court. So you got to perform good, but you also have the team that you got to play with, right? And so I think that's such an important point, because that's how a lot of people currently feel in med device sales. I hear it every day when I get on calls, especially with reps inside the industry. I'm by myself. My manager won't even talk to me. My manager won't help me, and my reps won't help me. They've told me, like, they just feel like they're on, and then welcome to why people leave. Compared to, that's what I wanted to kind of even talk about, is like, you've been 3 different companies, but the same general company. Right. They've had reorgs, all the stuff, layoffs. You're still there, all the good stuff. So we can talk to that, because many people are scared. But like, what people miss though is people will stay at organizations for less money when the team's good.
Yeah.
That's what people miss is like, even when I was at Innovis, I was just telling you, I had a company who told me to stay at Medtronic. And then after that, I could go anywhere after 5 years, decide not to listen. 6 months later, after I was at Innovis, they call me and offer me literally double the amount of money, guaranteed 2-year guarantee, all the stuff. And I was like, no, thanks. Why? Because with Elliot, with Jordan, with the team that I had, with like David, Ben, Ian, like all my teammates, that was way more important to me than go and make a couple $100 extra grand.
Right.
And again, that's going to trigger a lot of people because they'll be like, $100 extra grand, screw you, all the stuff. But it's like, but I think that it comes back to you as a person. Like for me, it's never been about the money. It's only been about helping people. And I understand, especially being in rooms with a lot of millionaires and doing stuff, money's just a transfer of value.
Right.
And so I don't look at it the same way as a lot of other people. And I understand, especially coming from zero money to get my first massive commission check, all my money problems went away. I still go, as you guys can probably see in the background, cheesecake always will be my place. Like, don't need a lot, but I think people get really get jaded by just all about the money. But I really love that you said that, because it really does come down to who's your team, who are you around, who's the people that you're around. But once that goes away, once it starts getting toxic, once you start feeling alone, once the people start not supporting you, that's when team members start looking for other jobs.
I've had the opportunity, if you will, to be put on a brand new team. And again, same scenario, wanting to kind of rebrand myself. What do I want? What do I want in a team? Well, it wasn't about asking them for help. It was asking all them, how can I help them?
Come on.
So that's the biggest culture shift that I've seen is, if I want to see a shift, I'm not asking for help. I'm offering assistance. And sometimes it's not even just work related.
Yeah.
It's like, hey man, what are you doing this weekend?
Yeah.
What you got going on?
Just giving them an ear, or just connecting on a personal spot.
Yeah. Knowing that you're not going to call them every time and need something.
Yeah. You genuinely just
I generally like you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, and I say this all the time. It's like, I don't like when people work with us and do all this stuff. I'm like, I don't need you to be my best friend. I don't want you to but I want you to know I actually care about you as a human being. And I think that goes such a far way. Now, one thing I really want to touch on, because I would be mad at myself if I didn't, you've talked about it multiple times, rebrand. And I think that's something people get really scared about, is rebranding. I've always been this person. I was always the athlete. I was always this. But they talk about it like Beyonce has rebranded herself 8 times. Like, to continue to grow in your career, you have to rebrand yourself. Because guess what? Med device sales 15 years ago is not the med device sales you're in today.
Oh, not even close.
And it's changed so much. So you have to rebrand yourself. Because if you're still the same rep who's like, I only do fax, I don't do email or anything, you're not in med device sales anymore. You have to change with the time. So I love that you said that. And I just wanted to make sure that everyone heard that, because again, it's not just about who you are right now, it's who you're becoming. But when you get those new opportunities, so many people I watch get scared and they're like, oh my gosh, you're all this, compared to it's exciting. You're like, you get the opportunity to become who you want to be. Yeah. You can really start over and be that person. And I just love, and it goes back to the person you are and why I just respect you so much. It goes back to your heart. You're always just the most genuine guy that I've ever met. And like, you just always just care. And how can you give? So I absolutely just love that about you, man. And I just want to state that. And it goes into the perfect segue of like, I want to ask you, what have you learned over 20 years of being in med device sales? And the reason I think it's a perfect segue is, just so you know, to be in med device sales and be successful in med device sales for so many years, you have to be genuine, you have to be caring, you have to do stuff. So I just wanted to hear, a question I would love to know, me personally, is, you've been in for 20 years. You said you want to make this a career, which you've done a pretty good job at making a career. What do you feel like you've learned over these last 20 years? And it can be in med device sales or even about yourself throughout that process.
Talk about a loaded question. How do I summarize all that? The top of mind thing for me, Jacob, answering that question is, I've learned to trust my gut. I've learned that when I feel passionate about something, talking about a product, educating a surgeon, connecting with a nurse, we've talked about a lot here today, but that's genuine. That's me. Yeah. When I feel like I got to force myself to say this thing to this person, it never works out all that great,
No.
you know?
Yeah.
And that's probably the one thing I've learned the most. I don't know if that's, can even summarize that into a coherent statement, but being genuine or authentic to myself, my own beliefs, and also understanding my own value.
Yeah.
In that when I walk into an OR, I'm there to provide value.
Yep.
I'm not there to, I'm not the gregarious storyteller or the guy who's going to Europe every other week to brag about what car I got or anything like that.
Yep.
I'm just a family man who is in a career to help people. I'm the lowest rung on the healthcare hierarchy, but I am part of the care.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that, Medtronic, we talked about their mission. It is patient focused.
Yeah.
Again, going back to my hiring process, when I did my ride along, the rep was giving me the kind of a speech about, look, we're going into kind of the sacred space. This is, we're guests.
Yep.
And I've never forgotten that either.
Yep.
That we sometimes have a job to do, but we can always be professional, courteous, and a friend in some ways.
Yep.
Or, and like I said, professional. But so I think that's probably the one thing I've learned is just being true to myself.
Yep.
And again, going back to curiosity is actually, I'm going to say this. There's a podcaster out there named Rich Roll.
Okay.
I don't know if you know him or not. He's kind of like Joe Rogan and does these really long form. He mainly interviews athletes. He's also a long distance swimmer and a triathlete and all that. And he has this saying that really resonates, which is mood follows action. And I've found that whenever I'm in a bad mood, I'm either not taking the right action. Someone else, I haven't given enough value or convinced someone to take the right action, but there's always more action to take. It's not like you're going to be stuck in that spot where you're frustrated or you're not happy with something. And granted, I'm an anomaly staying in one company for 20 years.
Yeah.
I get that. But boy, we have a lot of people that come back.
Yep.
Because
they see how good it is.
It's really good.
Yep.
Even as much as it sucks sometimes.
Yeah.
And trust me, the last couple of years have been tough.
Yeah.
With just challenges outside of one-to-one sales.
Yep.
Back orders and other things like that.
And just organizational shifts, how they're doing stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of disruption.
Yeah. And then the favorite part is this is just part of being at a big company. And when we say this, it's not just Medtronic, it is every one of the med device companies.
Yes.
So I wanted to make that very clear. But it's I always remember being at the Medtronic and it was here's the mission. Then 3 months later, hey, we got someone new. We changed everything, doing everything. And it just would change. And then and it moves so slow. I can tell you guys, because I also sold to Medtronic, right? To get a decision, it's we got to go and it's going to take 3.5 months just to get a yes or a no, or even a maybe to get another meeting to talk. You know what I mean? And it just goes that way. But that's every organization with it. And so I want people to really understand that. But I think that's something that you're right about is again, where do you feel like you can come back to that you feel appreciated, on your team. But one thing I love that you just said is the action, right? And I actually just do this for my own life. Number one thing is you will be depressed. You'll be angry when you're mad a lot when you focus on you. But if you focus on others, it's really hard. And just so you guys know, that's actually why I love coaching. If I'm ever having a bad day, you know what I realize? I'm just focused too much on me and all that stuff. I get on a couple calls with our people. Happy. Yeah. It changes everything. That's fills number one. Yeah. It just fills the cup and goes through it because you are one of these people too, is you're an energy giver, right there. And we talked about this last time. It's there's energy givers and energy takers, right? And when you're a giver, it goes, but it can also be, it can drain you and you need time to recharge. But I just say that I do this and it's just ebbs and flows. You're going to have great weeks, great quarters, bad weeks, bad quarters. It's the ebbs and flows. Don't let the lows get too lows and the highs get too highs. But what I've also always done is I keep a journal. I keep a journal on when I feel the best and when I feel the worst. And why I do that is because every single time I just had a reset. We were just talking about it. When I'm always at the most peace, I'm at the most happiness, like all of it. I watch the sunrise every morning. I start with gratitude prayer. I write in my journal. I just spend the first 20, 30, 40 minutes just about me. But I always say, thank you, God. Like, I know I'm alive. I can do all these things. And just being thankful for where I'm at compared to when I'm not. Waking up, going right into work, going right into stuff. Fires are burning.
Right.
And then it's like other people are coming out. We have other things. And it's like where your energy is, where you focus on, it's where it's going to go. And I've really learned that.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to state that because hopefully that can be helpful to someone else out there. But like what you just said is like, I love the mood and the action. What I've noticed is if I'm having a bad day, if I just continue to be like, this sucks, all the stuff. And then what happens is like, I've watched people do this. They're mad, they're angry, so then they don't work out, which they would get endorphins and they would feel better, but then they don't do it. And then they go eat crap and then they feel even worse instead of they went out and got in the sun and hiked. And there's these actions that go compared to maybe I get a workout in, get out some sun. I feel a little bit better and it all just can shift the day. And so I just love what you said there because I think that's a great point for just anybody in life.
Some of the best decisions I've ever made was to take a nap.
Yep. Come on, man. Come on.
I don't do it all the time. Don't get me wrong. But you're having a bad day. Is 30 minutes away from your phone or your computer? It's probably the best thing you can do to get that reset.
It's it.
Or if you had a horrible interaction with a surgeon, someone dressed you down, embarrassed you.
Yep.
Take yourself out of the situation.
Yep.
And we're emotional beings.
Yes.
You have to let it out. And I think that's probably one of those things too that has allowed me to have such a long career is that, trust me, I get as mad and frustrated as anybody.
Yeah.
I also yell and scream and jump and shout when it's, amazing with the best of them. But, for the most part, I'm trying to be even keel.
Yeah.
And realize that, look, is this really going to matter in 5 years?
Come on.
Is this really going to matter
in 5 days?
5 days?
5
even?
weeks? Yeah, come on.
Maybe if I take 30 minutes and go lay down and close the eyes, will I feel exactly the same?
Yep.
So
that's such great advice. Right? It's the best.
Yeah. So, it's because trust me, if I was about to say some of the things maybe I wanted to say at that moment,
you might not be here anymore.
Yeah, I might not have this career.
Yeah. And that's so true for all the reps out there.
Yeah.
There's times you get disrespected. And what we do as beings is we want to protect ourselves and we want to defend ourselves. Who are you to tell me I don't have value? Right? Just so you guys know, this gets deeper into the whole med device sales, but like that's what people want to do. It's ego driven, all the stuff. But I tell people all the time, I even just said this to one of our people, they got an email on what does everyone do? They get it, they think emotionally and they're spouting it off in the first 20 minutes, 10 minutes. I said, I've never, when there's any emotion behind it or there's like a difficult situation, never have I done an email or a call or anything in a 30-minute stint after getting that I was proud of.
Right.
Just never. It's never happened.
Yeah.
It's give it 4 hours, give it 6 hours, let it talk through things, maybe 24 hours doing stuff to go through it because you're 100% right. And even that's a big thing that I learned in med device sales is we always have to have our phones on us. We always have to have emails. But what you're saying, there's nothing wrong if your schedule allows for it. Take that 20-minute break. Like there is nothing, like there's a reason all these other countries do siestas and they do it. But like actually when I was over in Europe, I actually learned a lot about it. And it's like, the power nap is actually like, I actually just took one yesterday. 20 minutes, put it on. I wake up, I thought I had 3 energy drinks because it just reset me. You just get to shut your brain off. But it's also that time of just like, hey, even if you don't fall asleep, if you just close your eyes for 10 minutes and breathe, it's about that reset. And I think that is such a good point that people need to hear because it is stressful.
It goes back to self-awareness.
Yeah, come on.
And that's, again, and probably another one of those things. I've just become more self-aware, I think.
Yeah.
Having been exposed to a lot of the things I've been exposed to within and the different jobs I've done and the leadership that I've worked with and all that is, and I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
I'm by no means perfect.
Well, I wanted to state that even in the several years I've known you, the self-awareness and like the self-growth you've worked on, we've had those conversations, which we're going to roll into in a second, but like I've watched it. You just never stop.
Yeah, mood follows action.
Come on.
You know, I mean, I'm happiest when I'm growing.
Yep.
And I think anybody that, you know, cliche analogy, you know, the line on the EKG is not good. You want it to be up and down.
Up and down. Yep.
So, sometimes we all just need to listen or read a book or be reminded of the fact that career is a roller coaster.
Come on.
There's no way around that.
I love that.
There's nobody that has a straight line to the top.
Preach it. That's the one thing I want everyone to hear is I hear that all the time. Entrepreneurship, sales, success. Yep. Everyone's like, it's got to be this. It's never this. It is up, down, 80 steps back to it. Like it goes up, and that's what people miss. And that's where it's like, you need to, like, I think there's a video that goes back by Tom Hanks, and he was on a podcast, and it says, this too shall pass.
Yeah.
Things are going great. This too shall pass. Yeah. Things are going horrible. Yeah. This too shall pass, right? It's just being able to understand it. But I think a big thing you said is the self-awareness. And that's what I hope everyone just on this podcast can hear, because that's the biggest part of being a successful rep, being a successful person is just knowing yourself. Because everybody wants to wear this badge of honor of I work all the time, or I did this many sales, all the stuff. That's great. But what are you doing for you? Because I go back to everybody and I talk about it in our course. Like I was crushing it, doing all this stuff. And then, you know, I'm very open about it. I started going to therapy. And my therapist was like, when's the last time you heard the birds? And I tell people that question rocked me.
Yeah.
Because it's like 2 years, 3 years, I don't know. Because I was never able to be sitting still with myself.
Yeah.
Now, like the happiest I ever get, I can walk out and I hear the birds chirping. I hear the mower going, like all the stuff compared to what else can I figure out? What else business can I do? What else? We're programmed to do that, right? But I've actually learned I've gotten way more successful financially and just even more at peace, which I think is even more success than any money you can ever make, is being able to turn it off. When I was first getting with Medtronic, and I can always just be open with you guys, is like, I never did. I woke up at the gym at 4:30, did it, worked till 7, 8, worked, and then I studied, did all more. Then I started, like, I'd do the podcast, all this. I just never could shut it off.
That's sort of the danger of having something to prove.
Bam. And it goes down.
It's a good driver.
Yes.
But it can also take over your life.
Yeah, it does. And I watch people, and that's one thing I've learned is like me being in my 20s, and now I'm a month away from being 30. So that's where the gray's coming in now, right? But the reason I say that is, you know, I can look back and I can admit, like in my 20s, it's like I had stuff to prove.
Yeah.
I was trying to prove it to a lot of people and all the stuff. And now the older I'm getting and doing, it's like, you know, like we're going to have keyboard warriors. I'm going to have reps who I don't even know, and they all know my name and all the stuff, talk trash. And it's like, I don't know you and I don't care, because I've really like come into peace is a couple things is, do I like me? Do the people I care about and the people I know, do they like me? And do they truly know me? Because I always think about this. If you got a question with me, or if you got a problem with me, text me. Don't got my number, you don't got an opportunity to have a problem with me.
Right.
Right. It's like you don't know it. But also, like, I've seen the one, and I bet you can talk about this, but like I saw a quote and it really hit me, was like, the moment a man realizes the only people that matter are the people under his roof. And it was just understanding, like, the opinion that only mattered was your wife, your kids, all the stuff. Who cares about the external validation of another rep saying, oh, you work at Medtronic or whatever? That's great. It's going to fade. But who are you as a human being? What did the people closest to you say about you? And I think that's a big thing that just even for myself, self-awareness is being able to shut it off, be able to, like, you know, I talk with Eric, who's our videographer, and I talk with our team, like, I've actually gotten better because I'm dating someone, and it's like, I have to turn it off here. Like, I can't just be the guy that talks about it all the time.
Right.
And that's actually what's crazy. It's actually made me better at business.
Yeah.
Because then when I come in, I am zoned in for the hours, but then it's like after 4, 5, 6 or whatever, I shut it off. We ain't talking about it till tomorrow or whenever I do it. And so I just would love for you to talk about that, because I think that's really healthy for you, like what you're saying, in a career. Because eventually there's going to be the times you have to push. There's going to be weeks and months that you have to go.
Yeah.
But to have a 20-year career and to stay married and to do all the stuff, you can't just always be going all the time.
No, family has obviously always been a high priority. You know, God, family, and me, other people. We all learn from our parents.
Yep.
My dad brought home work a lot.
Yeah.
And his thing was, I just need, he had 5 kids. The last thing he wanted to do after having chaos all day long at work was to deal with chaos at home.
Yeah.
He pretty much just wanted to go down into his cave and turn off the lights and be alone for a little while.
Yeah.
And, as a little kid, you don't understand that, but now I do.
Yeah.
As a dad, I certainly do.
Yep.
And like, for example, one of the things I did was, I needed that too, as like I mentioned earlier, sometimes I would drive 6 to 8 hours in a day to have 2 or 3 meetings. There have been times when I drove 8 hours for one meeting, because that's what it took. And you get home, you just want to like decompress and all that. But one thing I did, I always said, look, I'm going to go upstairs. I'm just going to be up there for 10 minutes. I just need 10 minutes. Decompress, change my clothes, maybe I send an email, just get it off my mind. And then I can go be present with the family and fully present. To this day, we still try and have the phone not at the dinner table, talk to people, no TV, actually looking at each other. That was a rule in our house growing up, was we had family dinner.
Love that.
That was family time, highs and lows, or we'd talk about whatever they wanted to talk about. And, I like to cook. So we helped. That was kind of one way I would also decompress. Just to kind of let it go.
That's like your therapy.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yep.
And, but I never wanted to be in a divorce court going, man, I'm really glad I got that commission, or I'm really glad I took this job that pissed everybody off in my family, but I got an extra 100,000. It just wasn't important. So, when you're asking the question, because I still have doubts to this day, am I doing the right thing? Am I, is this going to give the result that I need to, hit the number or whatever? But I am in my own house. I work from home. And my saying is, it's all okay. Like it's going to be all right. Because I have this, meaning the home and the family. And they can take away the car and the check, and everything's going to be okay. So there's a sense of power with that.
So much,
because I don't have excessive bills to pay. I haven't my lifestyle has not grown into my income. And look, it looks like a lot of fun, but the stress of keeping that up is it's just not me.
It's massive.
So again, I mean, it sounds like the theme of this podcast is, know yourself, and to yourself be true. And that's one of those things that just never wanted to let that get in the way of my relationships. And, and all those times I was away, because I did have to travel a little more in some of my previous roles, whether it's just 1 or 2 nights during the week, or, if you leave at 5 a.m, you're not home until 7 p.m, you're gone for the day.
Yes, exactly.
Someone had to do breakfast, school, homework, all that. And, I was always working to do a trip or, have some reward to enjoy together, for the whole family. And so, that's always been super important to me.
And I just want to say that's one thing I appreciate about you is just how you lead, and like you lead with your family, but lead as a man of Christ, because
thank you.
I think that's a huge part. Is like one thing I've really learned, especially over the last several years of all this, is none of it's ours. Like we always think that it's my car, it's my house, whatever. Go look at the deed, who had it before you, all the stuff. And you die, it's all gone. And like what I've realized is like none of it's ours. We get it. Like I get the opportunity, like the beautiful place we're at now. It's like, I get to have it I rent this place. You know what I mean? It's like, it won't be mine in a year, whatever it is. Right. And so just understanding that it's all going to go away at some point. And I think it goes back to that peace and what's it worth, but also how you continue just to carry yourself as a man. Like, again, going back to that's how I think about this all the time. Now I can honestly say to everybody listening is I came from an unhealthy place of take it all away and I'll still be fine because I already had nothing and I'll get it back, to now being at a place of now just like, none of it matters. Like I tell people all the time, got on the commission checks, did all this stuff, made money that I never thought I'd make. Nothing makes me happier than watching the sunrise every single morning over those mountains. Post on my Instagram all the time. It's just my time of just realizing I'm alive another day. Like we've all had people we've lost. We've had people who had cancer, all the stuff. And it's just that realization of like, man, I'm still alive for one more day. I get the opportunity to do it. And like just seeing how you continue to always put your family first. Like I've always just said that's one thing I admire, because we're in a place where there's millionaires everywhere and all this stuff. And it's like, I talk to guys, some of the most narcissistic people who are all about the money, the cars, the driven. And again, people do their own thing. That's fine. I've never once been impressed by it, because I always just think about, like you said, does your wife love you? What does your kids say about you? Like, do all this stuff. That's the real success. And I think about, like, my grandma always tells me the story. And it's like my grandpa would go and like fill the gas tank up for her and say, save your money, just stuff like that. Yeah. It's like, that to me is like true success of like, what does your family say about you? Who cares about the external world? Because the internet's going to say whatever. But I just want to say to you, man, like that's one reason it's just a pleasure being friends with you and just continuing to grow our relationship, because I watch how you continue to carry yourself and you continue to have goals. But the career that you've had, it's just been a pleasure getting to know you over the last several years, but really excited about the future with you, because I just learned so much from you.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that. It's and there's more changes coming, so who knows? But yeah, I appreciate that. I've always, likewise, Jacob. When we first met, my first thought was, man, I gotta keep this guy in my life. He's just a ball of energy and got so many great ideas. And as someone who has experience, I also am blessed by my relationship with you and your enthusiasm and your entrepreneurial spirit and your ideas. And, you're a go-to guy for me. I 100% know that you're just a solid friend who would show up if needed.
Yeah. Well, it's always good to have the ones on the back. So I always talk to people, when things hit the fan, you need to have a couple people you can call. And
yeah, for sure.
I know I got that in you. And so I appreciate that. Now, the one thing I want for all the guests is your advice, because as you guys can see, we can talk for hours and I just love our conversations. But what's your advice to somebody, maybe they're new breaking into medical device sales, or maybe they're that rep who's in for the first year or anything? What's your advice to them of like, hey, breaking into med device sales? And you can do a 2-part answer if you want. Breaking into med device sales, what would be your advice of talking and interviewing human beings? And then maybe a second part of what's your advice to people that are in the industry, how to have a career in med device sales, to not just 1-2 years and be in and out. How do you do that?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit cliche to say when you're interviewing for a new job, you really do need to be clear on what your why is. And I know that it sounds so, I don't know, it's overused, but it could be as simple as, I just think this would be fun. That could be literally as simple as that. Like, that's my why. I think this job would be fun. I think, or you want to make a difference, or you're looking to move into management or whatever, but being clear about that and authentic and just be yourself.
Yep.
And trust me, as someone who has done some interviewing, it can be very hard. It's an intimidating thing. You're constantly thinking, what do they want? And honestly, what they want you to be yourself. Yeah. That's the answer.
Here, save yourself, guys.
Say
right
it all
here.
the time. Yep. Be yourself. Show your personality. Yep. If you're, and if you don't click with the interviewer, it just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
If you're, again, like I always use kind of the gregarious storyteller, again, in an interview, you have to maybe tone that down a little bit, but if that's who you are, be funny and tell a story. Just know your why.
Yep.
And be yourself. And then once you're in the job, I think, because I was not, from a sales perspective, I was not successful the first 3 years I was in my career. I did not hit my quota for 3 years. What kept me in my job? One, constantly having to put that fear aside that that's the ultimate be all end all.
Yep. But
their managers do evaluate on behaviors.
Yep.
And they understand, the good ones understand that the behaviors are what you can really teach and will grow someone long term, as opposed to just a success.
Yep.
So if you're going to make a plan for yourself, well, that's the other thing I would tell is make a plan for yourself.
Yep.
Don't wait for someone to put you on a plan. Just make a plan for yourself.
Because even if you get on a plan, you can become proactive and say you have a plan, right?
You could, yeah. I mean, luckily I never was at that point.
Yep.
Because I feel that, look, I there was no way I was going to hit the big number, but I had all these incremental small goals that I could show, look, I did this, this, and this, and it resulted in $20,000 in sales. I did this, this, and this. And next year we're going to get a shot at that contract.
Yep.
Did this, this, and this. And I took this surgeon to training and now he's using my stuff and all these like little bricks, right? You're building a house. And one of those, that's being proactive about that, even in the face of a negative event, I'll say, in your territory.
Yep.
Because back in the day or whatever, you had one surgeon move away. That could be your whole year.
Yep.
Now, on the flip side, you could have another one move in and it could totally turn everything around.
Yep.
Which is, again, kind of one of those things where it's like, did you really be,
Yeah, exactly.
Were you really all that great? Or did you just have a bluebird land in your lap? But trust me, you can screw up a bluebird just as much as you can be successful with it too. Yep. So it kind of goes both ways. But just continue to be a learner.
Yeah.
I mean, I think where people get stuck because I'm also a sales coach and they think they went through training. It's like, well, I should already know all this. No. You're going to learn something every day.
For the rest of your life.
For the rest of your life. And hopefully outside of just this little job too. Whether it's a hobby or your family or, whatever you're into, just being a lifelong learner is the best thing. So having a plan and being a learner.
That's so good.
Two things.
I love it. Yeah. You guys, if you're watching, just please go back and watch that last 5 minutes because it's gonna make a big difference. Because again, just for everyone to know, I always had a plan too. I get my quota, work it backwards.
Yep.
I need to know what's that look like a month, what's that look like a week, what's that look like a day. So I had an idea to gauge it. What would I have to do? All the stuff. So it just have ideas. So Jim, we could go for another 3 hours. I just appreciate you so much, man. And I just want to say thank you for taking time out of your day to just share with our audience and just share your insights. And guys, I hope you found this really impactful, not only for med device sales, but also just in your life. Because again, what I always tell people, especially in my program, is if all I do is get people hired in med device sales and that's it, I feel like I failed. It's always about making a difference in their life and making an impact. Because again, if you're not having fun at this, if you're not at peace, if you're not making a real impact on other people's lives, it's like, what are we doing this for? Because the money will come and the money will go, my friends. And I can sit here and tell you there is nothing worse than getting a big paycheck and still feeling like crap. So that's what I would just tell you is continue to work on yourself. But Jim, I just want to say thanks for taking time.
For having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. And if you guys can press that like and subscribe button, a 5-star review helps us grow this channel. And if you guys are really interested in learning about how we've been able to help our average person break in 2024 at 8.5 weeks at over $105,000, feel free to click the link below. Just again, understanding that don't need anything from you, don't want anything from you, just want to continue to help you guys. Like I said, we actually just got somebody hired today at Medtronic at $125,000. It's awesome. It's what we do every day. I just want to be able to help you guys change your lives. So again, feel free to reach out to us on Jacob McLaughlin, LinkedIn, or New to Medical Device Sales, LinkedIn, all the socials, TikTok, Instagram. Always happy to connect with you guys. And if you guys are in the industry, just keep crushing it, keep going after the goals. Just know it takes time. And same thing, if you're trying to break in, just understand it takes time, but we can speed that time up for you. So really appreciate all the support. And until next time, keep crushing it, go hit quota, break into the industry, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.